I don't really know anything about the new Marvel Snap card Kahhori as a character, so I asked ChatGPT to give me a brief rundown. It turns out Kahhori is a Native American introduced in the What If cartoon series, where the Tesseract gets broken up into pieces and one of the pieces happens to get launched into pre-colonial North America. She gets a bunch of superpowers and saves her people from all the bad colonizers, and that's about it. Thanks AI, you took a simple task and made it trivial. The future is now. Kahhori in Marvel Snap gives out buffs to your board like L's to colonizers, if ChatGPT is to be believed. On reveal, each card in your hand gives one of your cards in play plus 1 power. That's a potentially powerful ability, giving Kahhori a stat line of anywhere from 4 to 6, all the way up to 413, which is really good. However, at 4 energy, she's going to compete with some heavy hitters like Galacta and important tech cards like Shang-Chi. Kahhori works best with cards in 2 different ways. Cards on the board that want more power, and cards that can put more cards into your hand, thus increasing the amount of power that Kahhori can give out. So in this video, we'll go over cards for each of those strategies and provide 2 deck lists where I think Kahhori can really shine. One unusual and one update to an existing archetype. We'll start with cards on the board that want more power. Probably everyone's first thought is Sebastian Shaw, and yes, Shaw is very good. Beta Ray Bill cares about extra power since his hammer will double his power, so if Kahhori can pump him up, he'll grow even bigger. Unfortunately, Thor doesn't really work this way. His hammer provides only a flat 6 power boost, so Kahhori in the Hammer Bros deck isn't probably that great. Captain Carter is still looking for a home, and Kahhori could make her much better. I'm currently only finding success in Ultron decks with Captain Carter, which is fine by me, but not a great look for Captain Carter. Now Dakin is really interesting to me in that it can use the extra power from Kahhori before the shard doubles his power. Additionally, the shard is another card that gets put into your hand for Kahhori's power to be distributed. We'll talk more about Dakin in a bit, but I think Kahhori discard could be worth looking into. Deadpool would really like the power from Kahhori, and Kahhori is probably fine with cards like X-23 and Wolverine, so it might also be worth looking into a Kahhori Destroy type deck. Scarlet Spider could be good with Kahhori, though they both end up fighting for the 4 energy position. Multiple Man and Human Torch both benefit from Kahhori's power boost. In fact, I could see a move deck version with Kahhori, especially in tandem with bounce cards to keep your hand full. Nimrod technically wants the power from Kahhori, yeah, but Nimrod costs 5, and that means you need to play Kahhori on turn 6 along with whatever you use to destroy Nimrod. It seems like the energy just doesn't add up. Now for cards that add cards to your hand, we can obviously take inspiration from any Victoria Hand or Devil Dinosaur type deck. In particular, I'm thinking of the Shield Personnel package, Agent Carter, Agent Coulson, Maria Hill, and Nick Fury. Though I would again be wary of having Nick Fury compete with Kahhori in the 4 energy spot. There's a lot of good card generation like Kate Bishop, Iron Patriot, and Hood, and those will all work well with Kahhori. And then there is a card generation tier that's less than good. Penny Parker, Sentinel, Snowguard, and Valentina. The 2 I'm most interested in are Thanos and Dakin. We already talked a little bit about Dakin and how it cares about the power that it gets and the additional card going to your hand. Also consider that a version of the discard deck already runs Frigga, Swarm, and Collector. I would be very interested in further exploring Kahhori discard if discard wasn't already so powerful as it is. You could consider Kahhori the 12th card instead of Meek or Khonshu, but I don't know that it is better than either of those. I also expect some changes in the upcoming OTA to kind of nerf discard, so maybe wait until after Thursday before investing all your tokens into Kahhori discard. Now the second card I'm interested in here is Thanos, and that's for 2 reasons. Firstly, half of the stones will replace themselves with card drop, which helps keep your hand full. Secondly, Thanos starts in your hand, giving you a head start on accumulating cards in your hand. So now that we have a solid idea of what works well with Kahhori, what do complete decks with Kahhori look like? Well, first I would like to present Kahhori X, which looks to ramp into an early Professor X, then fortify that lane with some move cards and Kahhori's power reinforcement. Now to win the second lane, we hope to leverage Sebastian Shaw and Iron Man to provide big points. Nico Minoru is a great 1-drop for this deck. She can provide more power, a generated card for your hand, movement into the Professor X lane. She does a lot of things that this deck wants. Quinjet is probably the 12th card and the first I might replace. I just wanted something that would help out on the post-Moon Girl turns, giving you a bit of break on energy when you need to cast a couple of things that cost like 3. However, I could see this being something like Nebula. Nebula can either attract cards and then you can Professor X into a different lane, or you can Professor X the lane with Nebula and Nebula will continue to grow. Kate Bishop will add some cards to your hand, but your arrows can also help fill out a Professor X lane. Penny Parker will generate a card in your hand, and it will also give you the ramp to get Professor X out on turn 4. Sam Wilson is Sam Wilson, and I'm kind of tired of talking about Sam Wilson. Rocket Raccoon and Groot can help build power in your non-Professor X lane, or be moved into the Professor X lane later to seal the deal. We are really hoping Sebastian Shaw carries a lot of weight here. We don't have any ways outside of Nico and Kahhori to buff him, so right now he's just kind of a stat stick, but you could run other things to help make him grow if the overall power in the deck is a bit lacking. Luna Snow is another ramp for Professor X, and having an extra energy around seems fine to me. Moon Girl is here to be a big card generator. We don't run a ton of generations since we don't want a full hand forcing us to skip draws. This deck needs its cards to be drawn and played, but I think having one card that will kind of restock an empty hand before Kahhori is pretty good. This could also be something like Nick Fury, and it might be better off as Nick Fury just for the RNG that Nick Fury brings. Iron Man is there to win the non-Professor X lane, and Professor X is there to steal a lane, letting you focus on winning just one of the other lanes. The next deck is Thanos Zoo. This deck looks to fill out the board with Thanos' stones, value 2-drops, and then buff them all with Captain Carter, Kazar, Kahhori, and Blue Marvel. Zabu is here because we have 3/4 drops, but it's also a 1-drop Winnie that can help front load a lane for Captain Carter, and it'll receive buffs from all your other buffers. Goliath is a solid stat stick since you have a lot of ongoing cards. You aren't necessarily an ongoing deck, but you have 7 other cards with ongoing, not to mention that the Thanos stones also have some that have ongoing. So you can still get it up to like a 210, 2-9 around there, and that's pretty good. Gorgon is just a tech slot. This could also be Morbius or whatever you prefer, but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of hand generation in the week that Kahhori comes out. Sam Wilson is multiple ongoings for Goliath, an extra body to fill lanes for Captain Carter, and is probably the best 2-drop in the game. Victoria Hand seems like a weird inclusion since we only run the Thanos stones as generated cards, but I think that's kind of fine. You aren't looking for a giant game ender, you just want a 2-drop that produces good stats. I could also see running Dazzler here if you want. Red Guardian is the second tech slot, which again is completely up to you and what you think you might be facing. Captain Carter... Well, let me put forward my theory that newly released cards are better the week after they are released because the meta is no longer focusing on it. I get that Captain Carter hasn't put up great results so far, so feel free to swap this out for something else. Kazar and Blue Marvel are staple Zoo buffers, and Mockingbird is a staple Zoo big boy. We only reduced the Mockingbird from the stones and the shield, so if you want to swap out Captain Carter or any of the tech cards, I would swap in a card generator, something like Kate Bishop, Iron Patriot. Anything along those lines would strengthen the Mockingbird reduction and give more bonuses from Victoria Hand. Now Thanos is Thanos, but we're mostly here for the stones. However, the stones do provide Thanos with a lot of flexibility in regards to playing Thanos into risky locations or dangerous situations. So am I picking up Kahhori? Yeah, for me. I think she is fun and works with a lot of cards that I enjoy playing, and actually maybe a really good deck and a good stuff, high value generation hybrid type deck. I'll be using tokens to grab Kahhori as I already have Hydra Bob and Cole Obsidian, and I don't find these spotlights very appealing. If you don't have either Cole or Bob, I might still not spend keys on it. Neither Bob or Cole are lighting the ladder up. They're still fine cards, they're just not super popular at the moment. But are you picking up Kahhori? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear different perspectives on it. Getting those will help me make better videos, so I would appreciate it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe. We have a OTA coming up, and I hope to have a video on that. I still do have that Goliath video in the works. It was delayed due to some technical issues that have been hopefully taken care of. Oh, and I did set up a Twitch account that you can go follow right now. I don't plan on streaming for a bit, but if you want the link, it will be in the description below. All right, now that the housekeeping is done, it's time to get snapping.